Bet on Bears fans, a breaking news edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way as we've got two new hires for the Chicago Bears, their first two of the offseason as the Bears go out and get Antwaan Randle and Al Harris as two new coaches to add to Ben Johnson's coaching staff. We're going to talk about both of these guys and break down what they bring to the team. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, man. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Let us know your thoughts on these hires in the comments below. Let's start it off here with Antwaan Randle. This is a name that to me really signifies the Chicago Bears going out and doing everything that they can to make this transition for Ben Johnson not only simple and easy, but also a comfortable one for him, going from that head coaching or that offensive coordinator position where one of his coaches, one of his main guys who he needed to go out there and have on his staff, you go get him. Now, this comes off the heels of hearing that Hank Fraley would not be made available. In fact, that he would be staying in Detroit. Tom Pelissero put this out a little bit earlier, that he would be staying in Detroit, getting a little bit more of a promotion there. So with that, with him off of the market, who was somebody that we thought was going to be integral in a possible transition here in Chicago, you go out and get the next best thing. And to me, that's Antwaan Randle. Number one, the one thing I think that he brings to this team, and you have to really give him credit on, is we saw him in that game where Tyreek Stevenson and Jameson Williamson are going at it. And he comes over to the sideline and he is getting into Jameson Williams, letting him know, listen, we don't need that penalty at this moment. We don't need you going out there and getting a penalty in this time. We need you to be smarter in this moment. We need you to be better in this moment. I believe that this is the kind of hire that you go out and you have a guy who sets a standard for what your expectation is in the building. And the fact that the Bears are bringing him in, this is per Adam Schefter, to finalize a deal to not only be the wide receivers coach here, but you got to give him a promotion. He is now the new assistant head coach for the Chicago Bears. To me, that is huge because you have a guy that you can visibly see some of the skins on his wall, some of the guys he's developed. Remember, Amon-Ra St. Brown was not supposed to be this elite player that he has turned himself into. So you see the development that he has there. You also take a look at guys like Jameson Williams and stuff like that, but you see the standard that they set there in Detroit, and that, as Mike Tomlin always says, the standard is the standard. They did not let their team fall below that. This is what is expected of you. This is what you need to go out there and do, and if you're not going to play to that, guess what? You're going to hear about it. I love the fact that you're bringing in a guy who has that culture, has that standard, has that fire, and we can visibly see it on the sideline. And not only that, but also you can see it in how the wide receivers go out there and play. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments below on bringing in Antwaan Randle. Do you like this hire for the Chicago Bears? For me, it's a twofold thing, and it does go into the conversation on Al Harris as well, but I'll start it off here with Randle. The other thing for me that gets me excited about this is, again, you can't stop spending money with the head coach. You have to go give him the staff that he needs to be able to go out there and make plays. You have to be able to give him the staff that he needs to be able to go out there and develop players. You have to be able to give him the staff to be able to go out there and already understand what the standard is and be able to execute that standard. Now you have two guys coming from a Dan Campbell system who are going to be putting that out to the rest of this coaching staff, putting it out to the rest of the team, being able to make connections with that team and saying, listen, this is where we sit right now. Are you going to be able to meet this level? Because if you're not, we have some changes that are going to be made. As Antonio Pierce said, there's going to be some business decisions made around this mug. For me, I love the fact that you went out and you got a guy like Antwaan Randle. I think that there's so many positives that you can take from this. And again, I look at George McCaskey doing things that we've never seen him do before. You look at how he's going out and putting a coach and allowing this coaching staff to be put together. He ain't putting it together. Allowing this coaching staff to be put together and knowing that it's going to cost you a pretty penny. I'm not just spending money on Ben Johnson. I'm spending money on these coaches. Let me know you guys' thoughts on Antwaan Randle in the comments below. The other coach that was brought in is Cowboys DB coach Al Harris, a former Packers standout. I know everybody's going to hit us with the double agents. Drop your FGBs in the chat, all that good stuff. For the Chicago Bears, he will be the defensive pass game coordinator / DBs coach for this team as well. I like that. Right. I think that is something that and I didn't see that before when I was bringing this out. So he's going to be the defensive pass game coordinator and DB coach for the Bears. I think that that's going to be something that's going to be really impactful, especially with the kind of DBs that we already have in the building. This is a great get for this team. You've seen the guys that he's been able to develop over in his time in Dallas. You've seen the guys that he's been able to go out there and put on the map. I mean, you're talking about him developing guys like Trayvon Diggs, developing guys like Deron Bland, a couple of dogs down there, both all pro cornerbacks. You're talking about him finding and helping Jordan Lewis in 2024 get to an all pro level. He is absolutely one of the most up and coming respected defensive minds in football. And I just think that this is going to be a great get. On top of that, you're bringing in a guy who already had a ton of responsibility on his hands. And that conversation coming from the fact that just like you just made Antwaan Randle your assistant head coach, that's who he was for Mike McCarthy. He got promoted to be the assistant head coach in his time there so that they could keep him on the staff because they heavily believed in what he was doing in that building. I love the fact that you're going out and you're getting these kinds of minds to be able to help you moving forward. I think that this is going to be huge for the Chicago Bears. And if this is where your coaching staff is starting, it feels like this is going to be a sky's the limit coaching staff. It feels like if you go out and you get a guy like a Dan Rizzi, it feels like if you go out, or a Darren Rizzi, it feels like if you go out and you get a guy like Dennis Allen, right? That this is the beginning for you bridging that gap, going out and getting those guys. This is, hey, we've got these guys in place. We've got this staff in place, and we think that we have a team that can hit the ground running as soon as next year, starting to take steps in the right direction. And by the way, you see what we just paid him. Now, the numbers are not out there, but you have to think there's another raise coming here for a guy like that has been an assistant head coach in the NFL. You have to think that there's absolutely a raise coming for Antoine Randle. You have to think that the Bears are investing in this group. This is not a cheap group of assistant coaches, of position coaches that you have gone out there and acquired. And I think that's something that you have to give the Chicago Bears credit for. They're doing this in a different way than we've ever seen them do it before. And I am excited by this, especially knowing that, listen, you may have missed out on your first option in Hank Fraley. It was heavily talked about that he was probably the Chicago Bears' first option at the offensive coordinator position. We don't know where they're going to go just yet with that OC position. There's some question marks around the NFL on that, right? I think the latest name was the Broncos tight end coach that popped up. That doesn't really get me overly excited about that. Brad Biggs put that out a little bit earlier today, that he was somebody, Declan, trying to get the name here. Declan Doyle here was a name linked to the Chicago Bears to fill Ben Johnson's staff. He joined Denver in 23 after 4 years with the Saints. The connection, of course, is Dan Campbell. Chicago would likely have to give him the offensive coordinator title to get him out of Denver. Not a pop off the chart name, kind of a surprise name. Not somebody that you'd be overly excited to see the Chicago Bears go out there and get. But Sean Payton seems to believe in this young man enough to give him multiple jobs in his regime, in his organization. That's a guy I wouldn't mind taking a look at off of a Sean Payton coaching staff, especially coming in here to not be an offensive coordinating play caller, or not be a play calling offensive coordinator. How did you flip that one, Pat? Not be a play calling offensive coordinator, to be more of a guy who is looking ahead, to be more of a guy who is evaluating the defense. He was an offensive assistant in his time with the Saints. I think that's something that you could talk about him doing here. I'm really excited about how you're putting this coaching staff together. While this name doesn't pop off the charts, it is another name that's associated with a great staff. If you were to make him the OC here, he's not somebody who's going to be the play caller for this team. Ben Johnson has already said he's going to do those duties. So I'm not worried about as much who you get out there as OC, but I say all that to say you missed out on the guy who would have filled that spot as OC. you go get a guy like Antwaan Randle to come in and be your assistant head coach and really be able to push that message. I like the fact that Ben Johnson is thinking in those terms of, hey, I'm going to need other guys off that staff to really get what's going on here in line. There's a lot of excitement around this. I like both of these hires. I think the interview is an interesting one. We'll see kind of what happens with that. But let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments below on both of these guys. Do you like the hire of Randle? Do you like the hire of Al Harris? As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bad Don, one love. Peace.